We vibing with another show. Tell me everybody, can you catch this flow? We breaking down mental class and so you know who we win. Tony, Dixon, and friends. They tell me that the sky's the limit. Your purpose calling you, baby, you make the difference. Take charge, do you know who you win? Tony, Dixon, and friends. Who we win? Tony, Dixon, and friends. Yeah, yeah. Tony, Dixon, and friends. Tony, Dixon, and friends. Who we win? Tony, Dixon, and friends.
The conversation started going in a different direction, but I wanted to ask you that because you mentioned that, okay, well, even if somebody does ask you, you're a master of masking. You're just gonna say, no, I'm good, I'm good, and then you're mad that they asked. And I was going to ask you, is that more because you didn't genuinely feel that they were genuine when they asked that? Because when you can tell that somebody's like, no, you good, you really good. How you really doing, man? That does that, and you know that person cares. Now it takes on a different feeling.
You know, that's a funny thing. I never thought about it that way. But when the mom, dad call in and mom say, "You okay, baby?" The reason I wouldn't acknowledge it to her because I didn't want to hurt her. She's not here. I know my mom. She's a nurturer, and then she's gonna want to come to rescue. You know, the reason I didn't tell it to my dad, I wanted to prove that I was man enough to deal with it.
Yeah.
Right. But it's funny you say that because a lot of the voices in my head and when I was going through those moments and crashing out with alcohol and all that kind of stuff, what I was telling myself the entire time was, you see the phone not ringing.
Yeah.
Right. You see, they don't care.
Yeah.
They don't care if you live or die. Who calling? Right. Nobody want tickets now, so they ain't calling. So it's funny in that moment, I didn't think about it until you just acknowledge that, is that the ones that you know care are the ones that you deflect. But you actually get mad when the phone is not ringing.
Yeah.
But you put them in a situation where it feel like, don't call me, you bothering me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's a doom loop. You push people away just to sit back and say, man, they ain't coming.
It is. And so the reason that I asked that question, I'm glad that you shared it from because that gave me perspective of kind of when you're dealing with your parents, because you know how they're going to deal with once you open up. So you're in a position of, one, protecting your mom and how she's going to react,
right?
But then also demonstrating that, Daddy, I'm following through what you taught me and how to be able to push through and deal with this though. But when we were having that segment, and I want your feedback on this too, is we don't want it to come off as if that, hey, look, this is all on the person who battled.
Yeah.
All right. How do I learn as a friend?
Yeah.
Right here that, hey, man, I need to call TD and just be like, what's up, bro? You good? And then after we get through the cordiality of that, yeah, I'm good. Like, nah, bro, tell me for real. How you doing, man? How you doing? You know, I know things are tough over here right now. A lot of things going on in the world, but man, really, how are you dealing right now? And getting it. And so now, because we can sit there and try to give advice or share experiences of the person who's battling, but hey, how do we educate? Because this is about everybody. How do we support? And so, how do I, as a friend, engage in that space? You see what I'm saying?
I do. So welcome back again to the Tony Dixon and Friends podcast. We're continuing a conversation that we've had about vulnerability, opening up, and being able to share. And you've heard some of the conversations that we've had. And you're asking, Kecalf, how do you as a friend pull it out, friend, brother, loved one, get other people to open up to you? I oftentimes think about, I like to draw comparisons to like working out, physical fitness, whether it's track or whatever. We had an episode we talked about with Reverend Kelvin Kroon. He talked about when you're on a destination, when you're not able to make it to that destination, you look back and you realize that you've gone further than where you were before. Tony talked about, just giving them a little bit of it, giving them a taste of the conversation. I may not give you my deepest, darkest secret, but I may tell you something. And I think oftentimes we think about vulnerability, we think about the negative side of it, but do we even take the time to share and celebrate some of the positive stuff? We had an episode that we recorded, and we had a live studio guest, and the immediate response of the guest was, "Y'all doing too much." Instead of saying, "Man, that was a great job," instead of saying, "I love what y'all said," we suppress the positive conversations. Do we sit down and talk positive about some of the things that we are experiencing in our lives, but to continue that without judgment? Because I think that's part of the fear that we have, is if I open up, I'm gonna be judged.
Absolutely.
You're gonna be judged because somebody's gonna think that either you're weak or you're bragging. And the reality of it, I just want to sit down and talk to you. I want to get to know you. And once I get to know you as roommates, as significant others, as sisters and brothers, then we'll be able to find out, okay, now I know you're not good. Because TD, you've gotten accustomed to me calling you every day or every other day when that phone stops ringing from those people. Again, what I said before, when something changes about a person, something has changed. That's a cry for help.
Yeah, it's definitely a cry for help, and it's interesting you said that. One of the things that my now wife Timmy was doing during this moment, and I always think back, like she was nagging. I call it nagging, but in retrospect, whether she would tell you today that she didn't know that a lot of things was going wrong with me. But what she did know is that I'm not going to let you sit up here in the dark. So I reference a lot of joking that she would come in the house and start opening blinds. Right? And I would get mad, like, man, don't be coming here and open all these blinds. What's wrong with you? Well, she didn't know that I wasn't going through insomnia at that point.
Yeah.
I was sleeping during the day. Shoot, I was partying at night, bro. By myself. Picture this. Like literally picture this. Like a lot of liquor, a lot of music. And at that time they had Rock Band. Little game Rock Band on PlayStation.
Yeah.
Bro, I had the drum set, the guitar, and surround sound in my house, and would literally be in there playing the guitar and doing the drums and drinking and singing at night by myself. Having a party.
Yeah.
Good old party, grand old party by myself. So when she coming in the midday, walking in the house, opening blinds, I'm like, what are you doing, woman?
Yeah.
Like, because my eyes are bloodshot. Like,
Yeah.
I've been up all night. I'm trying to sleep now. Right? So I joked that, but she had access to me. Right?
Yeah.
And as insignificant as it may be to her, even married to her now, she loved opening the blinds. She loved allowing light in.
Yeah.
Even saying that, just think about the symbolism, behind that. Like would not allow me to sit in darkness. She would force the light in. Yeah. The funny thing, you remember Miss Frances Rowe. I called her my spiritual mother. She's from Faultville, Alabama. It's a lady that was a diehard Auburn fan. Came to an event at Alabama with her students. She was a teacher, retired teacher, educator for years. Amazing woman. She came down with her students, and the speech that I gave was, and within that speech, I'm here to recruit people to University of Alabama. Within that speech, I made a statement that said, you have to ask God for the strength, not to remove the mountains, but to give you strength to climb. She latched on. That's what got her attention. That attention made her come up to me after the event. Ms. Rowe ended up being a person that was sending devotionals and Bible scriptures and verses to me every week. And hindsight is funny. You think about it right now. She always would end it with keep walking in the light. Yeah. And so just imagine, being in that dark place. Like, the only way to get you to the other side of this is for you to introduce light. Yeah. So you, that person, that friend, that spouse, that supporter, that that manager, whomever you are in that person's life, you don't have to solve it.
Yeah.
You just got to introduce light.
Yeah.
And what is light? Light is positivity. Light is I see you. Light is, man, I ain't heard you talk about the concert recently. I know you love such and such person.
Tell me about it.
You see what I'm saying? That's the light. And I think sometimes people just get into thinking they need to be the hero. You don't have to be a hero. Timmy didn't even know I was going through this.
Yeah.
But that small act of opening the blinds helped me see the light.
But I also think that a part of it, let's put some practicality with it.
Yeah.
I think part of it too is the power of community.
Yeah.
You have to surround yourself and put yourself in proximity in order to open up. I'm gonna pick on Kecalf. I'm glad you in between us because he done picked on me for so long.
That's about to go.
Yeah. But you think about it, TD, when we first started, this journey with the podcast, you think about Kecalf used to sit back and he was reserved, but I think that through our conversations, he sat back and now all of a sudden it ignited engagement with him. Now Kecalf is willing to share stuff with us and he's taking stuff to share at home. And I think it's because of the community that we've created.
He went from a baritone to an alto. Speaking to the mic, Kecalf.
Yeah. So you don't got to do it by yourself. It's not always a one-on-one deal.
Yeah.
There's power in community.
Power in community. You're absolutely right. And I think I said on probably the first episode, man, this thing is therapy, right? And so, yeah, and I'm glad that you were able to see that and call that out in the sense of, all right, kind of the uncertainty. I mean, people get a chance to see that even in this space right now, that we're still growing in this moment. This isn't an expert opinion here. This is life, and you're seeing the journey happen, unfold real time right here. And so, and you talk about light, you talk about positivity, you talk about progress. And what has brought that out is through the conversations that we've had right here in this room. And for me to see real progress with my son, man. I mean, my 8-year-old son now with the biggest, brightest smile on his face, that he sees his daddy in a different light because of a experience that I had not shared with him, man. And so, yeah, I'm fired up about that in the sense of being able to take something from this space, take it back and apply it to my life, and it to have a real impact that I know is going to be a lasting impact.
Yeah, but it starts with the power of community. Each one of us has sisters and brothers and family members, and I challenge you to create that space to share vulnerability. One of the things that happened to us with my family, my sister passed in 2008. She was 8 years older than me, and she passed in 2008. And since then, we realized that time was limited. Time was limited. It was 7 of us. One of us is gone. I was the youngest, and time was limited. So what we found ourselves doing as sisters and brothers, now we created this thing that we call a siblings trip. Every year, around February and March, we find somewhere to go. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, whether everybody goes to Tuscaloosa, we go to California, Detroit, and we find a place to get together. And in that, we find community with each other. And that's an opportunity for us to love up on each other, to get to know a little bit more about each other. And now because of that trip, we go back and it forces us, TD, to follow up and have conversations. You talked about, tell me about that concert. Hey, we've got an anchor that we can talk about our trip in the next one. But now that I have your attention, I can hear whether something is really good that you want to celebrate, or I can hear the vulnerability. And because of our community, it forces us to open up to each other. It forces us to open up to each other. What are you doing to create community so that you can have vulnerability?
Yeah, no, and again, coming back to the power of this community that we have here. I think just in this period of time since we've kicked this off, that's just been strengthened 100% to where we're actually challenging each other more, and through our conversations, we're able to pick up like, yeah, no, it's something more to that, and now we find ourselves leaning into that space, not walking away with it and saying, all right, well, yeah, I might have saw something, but no, we asking each other, no, tell me a little bit more about that. You know, what did you really mean by this? And it's important to have that type of circle that can challenge you to help you to break through when you're dealing with those and when you're not being fully open, right?
Yep. Because what I also learned is that now once you create that vulnerable space, community, whatever you want to call it, and again, I don't want to spend time in the mud with the negativity, but when you create that space and there's others that can be involved, they find themselves trying to get involved. Think about what we've done and the conversations that we've had with each other, and we've gone out and shared it with others. How many times have people came up and said to you over the last several, episodes, man, that helped me?
Yeah. We've gotten a lot, and I think it really goes back to having people in the proper categories. You started out by talking about, hey, everybody has a season, and I think a lot of times as we see the seasons change, around us as the year and the calendar dates go by, we see the effects of the seasonal change. You see there's one part of the season where, the grass is green, the flowers are blooming, the trees are full of leaves, and then you have another season where they're bare. And there's recreation, there's new growth. You see a new bird's nest out there because some new birds are in the horizon. I would tell you that sometimes we get held down by the baggage of others because we refuse to realize that they're not meant for the next season. And unfortunately, a lot of those are family members.
Yeah.
Cousins, sisters, brothers, you name it. But there's also another thing that you have to do. After you have grown and you've overcome some of those things that are negative emotions that you face, the saboteurs that you have in your life, you have to create new boundaries with those people that you love, especially your homeboys.
Come on.
Right? If you and your homeboys been sending pictures of Jet Magazine Beauty of the Week,
Why you went
Did
back?
you go back?
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But if that's
Page 27.
if that's what you're doing, hey, for those that don't know, I bet you they're gonna look.
Yeah.
Right. But if you sending that to your homeboy and that's been your relationship all over these years, and now you've elevated past that, but you still allow that, then guess what? You hadn't grown out of that relationship in that space, right? So some of the toughest parts of growth has been, as I'm growing, reintroducing that next version of myself to that person.
Yeah.
And they're either going to accept it and level up with you, or you're going to realize that they're not ready to deal with the level that you're facing. And guess what? You have to let them go.
Yeah.
It's no different than cleaning out your closet. Oh, that suit look good.
Yeah.
Them Steve Harvey suits look real good right now, but you best not come out of the closet with
And
them.
wide legs.
Man, what? They look good back in that time.
17 buttons.
Man, 17 buttons down to your knees. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's not appropriate right now.
Yeah.
Right? So guess what? You got to let it go.
Yeah.
And I would say that's what I did not do a good job of, because I found myself reducing myself down to the level of that friendship versus bringing the elevated version of who I was into that space to show them that I've grown, because iron sharpen iron, as we say that. So they may not grow at that point, but I'm like, dang, you changed, bro.
Yeah.
Every time somebody say you changed, bro, it don't have to be negative.
That's right.
Correct.
But we take it sometimes in our community when somebody say, man, you don't change, bro.
Yeah.
We take it as negative.
I should change.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. But
Right.
but here's the thing I want to push back on that, TD. I want to challenge you.
Yeah.
But I love what you said, reintroduce yourself. And I know you said cut them off. I get that. But in some cases, you may be the spark that they need to change. So do you necessarily need to cut them off or just create some distance?
You got to create boundaries, man. Because at the end of the day, sometimes you do have to cut off. Let's be very clear. There are some people you have to cut off. Because some people ain't good for you in that space. They're just not ready. They ain't going to be there. They're going to take you back to that person that you've overcome. That person you have to cut off, right? If they come back a different version, then you can let them in.
Yeah.
But you cannot hold on to that baggage. You do not owe another person your life to help save their life. You cannot, because you'll get trapped. You get trapped into that version of trying to get them to change. Going back to the light, right? It's either going to open the blinds or not. There's only so many times I can take you to the light for you to see it for yourself. So yeah, there are some times where you have to cut off. But to the point you're mentioning, as you're overcoming, typically what we don't do, we don't come back and tell my homie what I've been doing. Right? Not to force it on them, but to say, hey man, recently I've been journaling, man. You ever journal? Now, you might look at me and like, man, what you talking about journaling?
Yeah.
Right? But man, let me tell you what I've been doing during the journaling, man. I've been writing down like 3 things I'm looking forward to. I'm talking about gratitude, man, what I hope to achieve on this particular day. Now, they may at that point look at you like you crazy.
Yeah.
But guess what? Now I've shared with you some things that I'm doing different. I'm not sharing it to force it on you.
Yeah.
I'm sharing it just to expose you to it. And breaking mental glass ceilings, it starts with exposure. We're not forcing anybody that's listening to us or watching us to say that we want you to be another Eric, Tony, or Kecalf. But what we are submitting to you is that we've known that we went on our own journeys and we focused on loving ourselves. We focused on trying to better ourselves. And we're still not perfect. We're still walking in that. And like my shirt say today, I'm a hope dealer. Right? I'm still hoping to be a better person. So every day I'm being intentional about that. But I want to be very clear. And I know as that can be a challenging topic, but I do believe there are people you have to cut off.
Yeah.
You got to cut the weed where it's at so you can truly grow. Because if not, you're going to continue to get tangled up in that weed.
Man.
And on that one, I think that's too. And I'm glad that you asked that question so that we can put that. There's anything in life you're going to have to use a variation of techniques, right? So you got to be able to identify that. Look, this situation is just not good, and we got to cut it off, right? But sometimes, the people that you got to create space and boundaries from may be so close to you that you can't, just through family, whatever it is, that you just can't cut it off and walk away, nor should you. But those boundaries, like Tony talked about setting, but I love the fact there, what you just talked about, that's closing the loop, right? So they may not be ready to receive, all right, journaling or whatever you're doing at that point in time. And oh, by the way, when you bring it up, you might get the stiff arm when you bring it up. But it's more about that, hey, if we were in certain spaces, that boundaries and separation is like, hey, look, this space and this environment, going to this bar or going to this place, that takes me to a negative spot and I'm not able to grow, right? So I remove myself from that situation. But now that they know that, hey, here's what I've been doing, closing the loop, that. So when they are ready to walk in that, they know somebody that they can go to and say, hey, talk to me about that journaling thing. How did that help you? And so that's why it would be important.
And you heard 2 perspectives. We want to hear from you. No. You're not passing the mic on this one.
But I think that when you talk about cutting people off, I just still believe in creating the environment, because as you grow, I also have to realize that other people have to have the opportunity to grow as well, because sometimes you grow faster than others. I think about examples in the Bible, right, where David was anointed king at an early age, but it took him 17 years to get to the throne. Did they cut him off during those 17 years? When you think about the story about Moses in the Bible and how it took him 40 years, Sometimes you might arrive there before me. But what hurts a lot of people is if you arrive there before me and you cut me off, if that's what it looks like on the other side, I might not want to get there. I might be good with staying where I am. I'm not saying that everybody deserves to be cut off. I do believe in setting boundaries. One of the things that I like to do is kind of compartmentalize situations in my life and in some cases people. Hey, you may be good for a workout conversation. You may be good for a church conversation. You may be good for a family conversation. You may be good for a reflection conversation for me to stay young in the mind. If you're able to, cut through all of those categories, I'm good with that. I'm not going to treat you different, but I'll be cordial with you, expose you to some of the things that I have that I know about. I don't necessarily think. Now, I want to be clear. Some people need to be cut off. Some people need to be cut off. Some people need to be cut off. But in some cases, I think that, it comes down to growth and maturity. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, we develop at at different stages.
Yeah.
Man, I think this has been some helpful conversation, man. Thank y'all again for tuning in to the Tony Dixon and Friends podcast, where our goal is to educate and inspire you to go out and break these mental glass ceilings. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe what we're talking about. And go out. Make sure you have an opportunity to share with somebody so that you and them can both break those mental glass ceilings in your life.